भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता अवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम् देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तभावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो वरधिया दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचलशिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं. Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday Satsangh from Sri Ramananjali Center for Learning. As usual, we will be reading from Guru Vachaka Kove. We will be reading 2 verses from this work of Muruganar Swamigal. Each verse reading will be followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that will be followed by a 10-minute practice session of Atma Ucharan. After these 2 verse readings, the meditation on meaning and Atma Ucharan practice are completed. There will be a summing up by our President, Dr. Sharadaka, and that will be followed by Sri Ramanastotram chanting by Vaibhavji and Pratnama. Today, Manjunath will be offering flowers here at the Palakriti. We begin today's satsang by taking the first verse, verse number 210, selected for us from Guru Vachaka Kove. This verse is from the segment Investigation into Truth, which is followed by two more segments Meditation on the Truth and the Anubhava or experience of the truth. This segment is found in the subsegment Vibhuti, the sacred ashes. Vibhuti is the subsegment, verse number 210. God has manifested, assuming grace form of the Guru, the Brahmin, to bestow the supreme benefit on devotees. God has manifested, assuming the grace form of the Guru, the Brahmin, to bestow the supreme benefit on devotees. The disciples' ego consciousness that flutters in fright in the world like a deer caught in a net is the cow dung. To bring about total destruction of its form, of the form of the ego, the Brahmin utters the unique word, not through gross speech, but through transcendent speech. He kindles the fire of pure jnana. He calcinates it, the cow dung, in the holy place of the heart. He bestows the residue with delight on the disciple, blessing him as follows. May a life lived only as Shivam flourish. This is Paravibhuti. Such is Paravibhuti. There is a note. The Brahmin is the priest who supervises the ceremony in which the cow dung is reduced to ashes. Calcination is the scientific term that describes the process by which cow dung is reduced to ashes. Muruganar says, the unique word refers to the Mauna Upadesha, teaching through silence. Those are the two notes. Brahmin does not indicate anything other than the priest who supervises the ceremony in which the cow dung is reduced to ashes in the preparation of vibhuti. Calcination is the scientific term that describes the process by which the cow dung is reduced to ashes. The unique word refers to Mauna Upadesha, teaching through silence. So we read the verse again. God has manifested, assuming the grace form, Arul Uru, the very form of grace, assuming the grace form of the Guru, Bhagavan, Ramana, the Brahmin, the priest who is overseeing the ceremony of converting the cow dung into sacred vibhuti. This form is taken to bestow the supreme benefit of liberation on the devotees. The disciples' ego consciousness that flutters in fright in the world like a deer caught in a net is the cow dung, is the base form of the vibhuti, which is to be converted, transformed, to bring about total destruction of its form, the form of the ego. The Brahmin utters the unique word. It is like the match struck and the Agni put. The Brahmin utters the unique word not through gross speech but through transcendent speech. The Vak is also supposed to be Agni. So the transcendent speech is of course Jnanagni. That Jnanagni ignites the cow dung. That is the ego that is referred. He kindles the fire of pure jnana. He not only ignites it, he kindles it so that through his teachings and presence and arul, the grace, he kindles the fire of jnana tapas. He calcinates the cow dung in the holy place of the heart. Where is the process of converting cow dung into vibhuti taking place? it is now in the heart. He bestows the residue with delight on the disciple. What is final ashes? The gross ashes, the apara vibhuti, is now given to the disciple. And the blessing is, may a life lived wholly as Shivam. Hereafter, you are no more Jiva. Let you live as the pure Shivam, and let that life flourish, is the, the blessing from the Brahmin, the priest, the Guru. With that blessing, the same apara vibhuti, which is just ashes, it becomes para vibhuti. Para vibhuti is the self itself. That is how the ego is converted, just as the cow dung made holy is converted into the sacred ash vibhuti. The ego of the devotee is also converted into Shivam. We see the wonderful process again. Bhagavan's form, that is sitting before that the Agni Kundam, where in Ramanashram they are preparing annually the Vibhuti. Every year, yeah, once in the year, the Ramanashram, they prepare this Vibhuti for the whole year, and the process is what is described here by Muruganath. That the cow dung is gathered and the process is done, and it is along with mantra, it is made as Vibhuti. Here it is more beautified poetically by Muruganath Swamigal, and the process of deliverance of the ego is taught to us. Bhagavan, the Arul Uru, the form of grace, is sitting in front of us. When asked, how come the Guru comes, Bhagavan says, God Himself, for the prayer and sadhana of the Jiva, God Himself appears as the Guru and teaches him to turn inward, says Bhagavan elsewhere. So it is God Himself who has come as the Guru Swarupam, the Aruluru, and we, the egos, the Jivas, are compared with the base cow dung, which is to be converted into Vibhuti. So the Guru gathers all of us in one gross heap. He is going to uplift all of us. Just like in Jnana Sambandhar's marriage, the whole marriage party went off into Shiva, into the light of Shiva. The Guru is going to carry us with his vibhuti and convert this Jiva, who is like a frightened deer, threatened by the ups and downs of this world, and it is fluttering here and there. Bhagavan takes us in his hands, come, gathers us, and he puts us in that kundam. And now he is uttering his Mauna Vak, the Paravak. Paravak is the Spurana, the I, the Akanda Akara Vritti. The Guru is ever abiding in the Akanda Akara Vritti. Whenever a thought is there, the thinker is there, the process of thinking is there, the thought is there, three divided entities are present. But beyond the three divided entities stands the Akanda Akara Vritti as the Mauna Vak, as the Paravak, as the transcendental speech. Bhagavan says this speech obstructs the transcendental speech so far as you are a Jiva. The Jnani, nothing obstructs the transcendental speech, for he is naturally abiding in it. The natural abidance in the transcendental speech is always going on. The speech or the action of the Jnani does not touch the Anubhava of the Shruti note of the transcendental speech going on. Whoever has come to the Ramana Nama, whoever has come to the Ramana Sannidhi, they are all touched by the transcendental speech of Bhagavan, the Akanda Akara Vritti, the I. And Bhagavan lights up that cow dung, which is a useless stuff, with his Jnana Agni, and he kindles it with his teachings. When we read Guru Vachaka Kove, when we meditate on its meaning, when we try our best to practice his teachings, Bhagavan it is who is kindling the fire of Jnanagni in us. And in that fire, all the vasanas rise up and are burned. And the same Jiva is now blessed not only with the vibhuti in hand, but also with the blessing of Bhagavan. May you no more suffer as a Jiva. May you live as Shivam. May you live in Shivam. As Bhagavan says in his Anubhava of enlightenment, Bhagavan says, prior to this, there was no interest in the self. But now, after the enlightenment experience, there is a life in the self. I understood that nothing but a life in the self is what is required. And the Shruti note of the Aham Spurana was going on continuously, even though the body was doing various actions, says Bhagavan. That is the Shivam, that is living in Shivam, living in the self. That is what Bhagavan is blessing us. The the Akanda Akara Vritti, where the Triputi of the experiencer, the experiencing and the experienced is now combined, and there is only one path which is naturally beyond all philosophies, all way of explanation, because it is akanda, it is continuous, it is unbroken. The experiencer, the experience, and the experiencing all now merge. Now, this connection of the akanda akaravritti, it goes from this end of the cosmos to that end of the cosmos, because the whole cosmos is made of Triputi. Therefore, there is nowhere else to live but in Shivam. The one who is living in Akanda Akara Vritti is living in Shivam. He is living in the self. That is the blessing of Bhagavan. For such a life which transcends the plane of birth and death, for birth and death involves the Triputi, involves going and coming. Whereas in Akanda Akara Vritti, Bhagavan converts the Jiva, transforms the Jiva into Shivam, and gives us, blesses us a life of living in the Shivam, living in the self, living as the Akandakara Vritti in Sayujya Padavi, in oneness with it. And Bhagavan says, when you hold the Akandakara Vritti and don't ask anything from it, it too will become quiet, like the light, like the fire that was lit on camphor. When the camphor is all burnt out, as that fire is silent. Similarly, the Akanda Akara Vritti also, with no body attachment to burn, that also becomes Shivam, silence. That becomes natural to us. Till such natural abidance in Shivam is realized to be our very nature, one should follow Bhagavan's teachings. One should make oneself eligible for his grace. Take that vibhuti, apply it on the mind, apply it on the forehead also to remember and practice Atma Ucharan. Let us sit in practice of Atma Ucharan for 10 minutes. Ujjwalji, you have, or shall I set the alarm? Thank you. Thank you.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang by taking up the second verse selected for us. The verse number is 580. This is in the second segment, the meditation on the truth. The subsegment is Dvandvas and Triputis. Dvandvas and Triputis. There is a short heading for the verse. When the mind is destroyed, the world consisting of differences will become wholly Brahman, which is all consciousness. When the mind is destroyed, the world consisting of differences, various things, will become wholly Brahman, which is all consciousness. Verse 580. If the veiling, the mind that perceives differences, completely drowns and perishes through surrender, in that state of God, the non-dual being consciousness, all differences that arise through ignorance will become Brahma Swarupa, wholly being consciousness. If the veiling differences completely drowns and perishes through surrender, in the state of God, the non-dual being consciousness, all the differences that arise through ignorance will become Brahma Swarupa, wholly being consciousness. What is Ishvara's nature is one of the questions asked. And Bhagavan says, I am. I am is the best definition, if at all there can be, of Ishvara. I am is the being consciousness, which is the nature of Ishvara. When the ego, the mind, drowns completely in that being consciousness, in that irundu olir, being consciousness, in Arunachala Ashtakam, Bhagavan says, who is Arunachala? இருந்தொழிர் உனைவிடுத்து அடுத்திடல் தெய்வம் இருட்டினை விளக்கெடுத்து அடுத்திடலேகான். இருந்தொழிர் உனை விடுத்து அடுத்திடல் தெய்வம், leaving you who is within everyone as the akanda akara vritti, as the I am, as the being consciousness, to search for God outside. He is like seeking darkness with light in hand. இருந்தொழிர் உனை அறிவுறுத்திடற்கென்றே இருந்தனை மதந்தொரும் விதவித உருவாய். We worship the same இருந்தொழிர், the being consciousness, who is known as Arunachala in that verse. Bhagavan says, oh you Arunachala, the being consciousness, you only are the various deities present in various religions. By whatever name they call the Ishvara, it is only the being consciousness which is being worshipped. As Sri Krishna says, whoever worships anything, they are only worshipping me, their worship comes to me. The Irundolir is the one to whom all worship comes. And Bhagavan says here, when that mind, which is what is veiling this Irundolir nature of ours, we are all that grace, we are all that being consciousness, but the veiling of the mind, the veiling of the ego is preventing us from experiencing that state, and we have the Jiva Bhava. And in this verse, Bhagavan says, when the mind, the ego, drowns and perishes in that being consciousness through self-inquiry, through surrender. Here, self-inquiry is nothing but Atma Samarpana. The I thought, which is the Jivatma, the I thought cannot be surrendered unless the possessions are surrendered. Therefore, Bhagavan says, whenever the possessions, sensory or mental, arises thoughts, let it go by asking for whom is this thought. That is a possession of mind. Let it go. Ask who am I. Then the Jivatma is surrendered to the source. So self-inquiry is nothing but Atma Samarpan, surrender to the existing self. Therefore, here the verse, the act of vichara is called as surrender. When we surrender to that self, then in that state there is only God. As I said in the earlier verse, the Akanda Akara Vritti, the I am, it covers all the differences, all the triputis in the worlds, whether this world or any other world, it is made up of triputi. The knower, knowing and known, or the dyads made of the like and dislike, good and bad, knowledge and ignorance. All this is what is the world made of. But all of them are now consumed, are completely drowned along with the mind into the Akandakara Vritti, the I. It consumes everything. In that state of God, says Bhagavan, where Sayujya Padavi is now given to the Jiva. The Jiva realizes that there is nothing other than Bhagavan. There is only Bhagavan who is shining as the I am, I am, I am, I am. All the differences that arise through ignorance will become Brahma Swarupa. Aham aham iti sakshat atma rupena bhati. That is the Brahman, Kevalam Brahma Matram. It shines as aham aham iti sakshat atma rupena bhati. Brahman now shines as I. So when the veiling, the mind, the ego is now surrendered totally and merged and drowned and eliminated and destroyed in the source, then the Akanda Akara Vritti, the I, the I am that I am, says Bhagavan, quoting from Bible, that is the best definition of God, that He is always omnipresent, present everywhere, every moment. In fact, there is no everywhere or every moment, there is only I am. In that I am, the Brahma Swarupa consumes all the differences. There is no differences. Ninan Arapuli, Nidangali Mayamai, Nindridum Nilayarul Arunachala. Arunachala alone is there. Irundulir, the being consciousness alone is there. Therefore, that alone is shining as bliss, as the unconditional love, as the knowledge which is beyond all vasanas, as the existence which is consuming the knowledge and the bliss also, and shining as Ekam. The Sat alone is, the Self alone is, the Sat Chit Ananda are not three different things. The existence consciousness is not two different things. As this Purana, that's why Bhagavan says, if you hold this Purana, the I, and keep still, then that being consciousness, it now remains as Shivam, the pure being. The self alone, the Atma alone, the Brahman alone shines, exists as I. There, the Ardhanarishwara, the Shakti of this Purana, is now merged in the Shivam, and it is pure being. Till that pure being is natural to us, is our very nature. One should do Atma Ucharana. One should, whenever the possessions rise as thoughts, one should let it go and offer the I to the source by inquiring, who am I? This is Atma Samarpana. With repeated surrender to the Brahman, to the self which is the source, the mind drowns, the ego drowns in that self. And there is only God. God alone is, the Shivam alone is, the Brahman alone is, the being consciousness alone is, and that is you. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in practice of Atma Ucharan for 10 minutes. Ujjwalji, you will help us out? Thank you.
Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Bhagavate Shri Ramananjali. Namo Ramana. I request our President, Dr. Sharadaka, to give us the summing up remarks. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of that self manifest as Ramana, we have been able to meditate on the words of Bhagavan and also to sit for practice of self-inquiry. And of course, Muruganar Swami has referred here to two aspects. Through Muruganar Swami's verse, we get Bhagavan's teachings, and that is the two aspects. The first verse, we got the Jnana aspect, and in the second one, the Bhakti. In the first, it is referred to our being offered by the Guru into the fire of Jnana to become Vibhuti. And of course, the second verse talks for melting through love. We find this reminded me when one was thinking of the fire of Jnana, I was reminded of Bhagavan's reference to Arunachala as the fire of Jnana. In his prayer for mother's recovery, he says, Jnanangiyai ongu nallaruna ongale. You are that fire of Jnana. ஞானாங்கியால் அன்னை நல்லுடலை ஞானாங்கமாகச் செய்து. You make my mother's body as one with that jnana, that accept her into that jnana, in which case sahati boottuvadhen saatru. There will not be any need thereafter to put the body of mother into the fire of cremation. That means there will be no death. Mother becomes immortal. And literally also, of course, Mother Aragamar was blessed by Bhagavan with that state. Dr. Ambika Kameshwar often says that when Bhagavan wrote that prayer, already that act of grace had been completed. See, when Bhagavan has prayed for Mother Aragamma, is it possible that there will not be an answer from Arunachala? So, it is the Guru, that's what is said in this verse by Bhagavan. He says the Guru is officiating in the making of the Vibhuti, the sacred ash. He converts the cow dung, which is waste, the waste of our mind, the waste of our identity is converted by making it an oblation into the fire of jnana. It is converted into vibhuti. Vibhuti is sacred ash. And that sacred ash makes us Shivamaya, is what Bhagavan is telling us over here. So he converts us. It is sacrifice is one part. It is the necessary part of the sadhana. Because it is said in the Vedas also, Tyagena eke amrtatvam manushahu. It is only by tyaga, it is only by sacrifice. But Bhagavan is saying, what is to be sacrificed? It is only the ego, which is meaningless, which is just fluttering about, which is actually afraid and anxious. So there is really no issue about giving it up. Yet Bhagavan is compassionate. He knows that it is not easy to make that sacrifice. So in Aksharamanamala he has said, Ninneri erittenai neerakidumun, nin arul malai poli Arunachala. Before you convert me into Tirunir, Vibhuti. Neer there does not mean water, it means sacred ash. By burning me, before you reduce me to ashes, you pour down your downpour of grace, O Arunachala, says Bhagavan. And he gives us the option of Ambuvil Lalipol Anburu Udilanai Anba Karaitarul. Make me melt in you. So, here in the second verse, he says, if we drown in that, if we, as again in Ashtakam, he says, oru sarukkarai oru, like a sugar doll in the sea or a salt doll in the sea, if we enter the sea of being, which again and again Nandakumarji emphasizes for us as the Kevalam Brahmamatram, which alone is, which is all enveloping, which is actually taken us in its embrace. If we drown into it consciously, then this love with which we drown in it, we enter it, will make us melt. The melting is something which I have had the good fortune of seeing in Muruganar Swami. How he used to melt, literally used to melt at the even listening to the name of Bhagavan. And Muruganar Swami, is the one who has recorded these words for us, these words of Jnana of Bhagavan in Guru Vachaka Kovai. And Muruganar Swami said that the melting, the bhakti for Bhagavan has to include the practice of self-inquiry. There can be no escaping from the practice of self-inquiry through any means. Ganeshan, Sri V. Ganeshan, whom we call Ganeshan Anna, he narrated how he was struggling, of course, with self-inquiry, with the practice. And another devotee, his sister, also said, Bhagavan has said, Ayye ati sulabam, but the struggle is there. It's not so easy to practice it. So, when Ganeshanana was struggling in this way, in that jnana, in that fire, being burnt by that fire of jnana, through the grace of the Guru alone, which is converting, which is praying, which is officiating as the priest, he says. That is the priest who has made a prayer for the devotee. When he has made a prayer for Mother Alagamma, he is actually typifying how he is officiating for every one of us with that supreme to take us into that fire of knowledge. And then Ganeshanana, as I said, as he was struggling and he was reading this Atma Vidya Geetam, and he came to the last part which says Arulum Venume, grace is also needed. Without grace, nothing can happen. And he felt relieved that it would be only by grace, it was not for want of his own practice. And he went to Muruganar Swami and he said, Swami, Bhagavan has written Arulum Venume, is it not grace which takes care? And he got a reaction, totally unexpected reaction. Muruganar Swami said very sternly to him, in the escapism ella vendam. No, don't try to do escape from your practice, your sadhana, saying grace is needed. You have to put in your effort. You have to put in your effort. You have to keep at it. You have to keep at it. And Dilip often says that grace is anyhow there. Another devotee also once told me, why do you keep saying, by Bhagavan's grace, by Bhagavan's grace? Grace is always there, that is given. So what is it that you have to do? What is it that we have to do? So we have to practice the self-inquiry, we have to keep putting our effort, keep trying to put the effort with love, with bhakti, as repeatedly Bhagavan points out to us. Bhakti, with more and more of bhakti, and the more effort we put, the more the bhakti will automatically well up in us, and we will realize, we will truly realize, we will not be speaking of grace, but we can realize the presence, the all enveloping presence of grace as we try to turn to it within. Of course, there is no doubt that it is a grace alone which makes anything and everything possible. But Bhagavan says grace is in the beginning, middle, and end. Bhagavan is officiating as the priest, as he says here, or as Gadapati Muni says, he is cooking us as a cook to offer us as Naivedya to the Supreme, whichever analogy we may use. Bhagavan is at his job. Bhagavan will do his work. Sadhu Om Swami says his glance is bound to destroy us. So it is for us to have full faith in that grace, and therefore with great love continue to offer ourselves to the self, allow him to offer us to the self by holding on to the self-inquiry, by repeatedly holding on and practicing, which will enable us to drown in that sea of bliss, which is grace. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
Namo Ramana. May I request Vaibhavji and Prath member to do the Ashtotram chanting?
भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितम् श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशये यस्योमि मात्रं भुवनं समस्तम् गुहाहितं तं रमणं कबीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः। ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः। ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः। ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंब्रह्माय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ सपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ च्यूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिकाखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजदचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलहृद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिवृन्देन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋक्चान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलोदराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः ऋन्निष्ठस्वकबीरमित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संकीये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿತಿಗೆ ಅದರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೂಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಘಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ बोलो भगवान श्री राम श्री